Kwame, the great warrior king of Kakum, stood on the shore of his kingdom, watching the golden sun drip behind the horizon. His people had gathered to bid him and his warriors farewell. The Kuruman War has begun, and the kingdom of Kakum had to defend itself. With his best warriors, Kwame boarded a mighty wooden ship, ready to face the battle ahead. For months, the war raged. Kwame led his men with unmatched skills, cutting through the enemies like a raging storm. The warriors of Kakum fought bravely, and in the end, the war ended and they won. The enemy has been defeated and peace returned. Victorious, Kwame and his men set sail for home, their hearts filled with pride. They celebrated their victory with songs, laughing and boasting of their strength. But in their joy, they angered the gods of the sea. One of Kwame's men laughed, raising his sword to the sky. "Not even the gods can defeat us now," he shouted. The sea, which had been calm, suddenly began to boil. The sky turned dark and the wave rolled like a mountain. A massive face appeared in the storm, eyes burning with fury. The gods has been insulted, and they would have their revenge. The ocean rolled with fury. The waves crashed against the ship, tossing it like a toy. Lightning tore through the sky, and the wind howled like 1,000 angry spirits. Kwame and his men struggled to keep the boat steady, but the gods has already made their decision. Suddenly, the sea rolled like a beast. The waves rolled high, and the wind howled like a wounded spirit. A massive face formed in the water, its eyes burning with fury.
"You dare challenge the power of the gods?"
The sea bailed. Before Kwame could react, the ocean turned violent. A monstrous storm came down upon them. With the force of 1,000 storms, the ship split into pieces. Kwame's men screamed as they were swallowed by the raging sea. One by one, they disappeared beneath the water. Kwame fought against the raging waters, but the force was too strong. As he sank, he called out to the gods, "Please, give me another chance." The sea god heard his cry, but they did not grant mercy so easily. Instead, they cast a curse upon him. He would not die, but his journey home will be too long and full of trials. Kwame fought to stay afloat, his muscles burning as he battled the waves. But the wave was too powerful. The gods has cursed him. His vision blurred, and darkness took him. Kwame woke up to the sound of waves gently crashing against the shore. He felt sand beneath his fingers and warm sunlight on his face. Slowly, he opened his eyes. Where was he? He tried to sit up, but his body ached. He looked around and saw tall palm trees swaying in the breeze, birds chirping in the distance. The air smelled sweet like ripe fruits. As he struggled to his feet, he heard whispers. Someone was watching him. Not far from the shore, 3 women stood frozen in shock. They were unlike any women Kwame have seen. Tall, full-figured and elegant, their dark skin glowing in the sun. Their thick coiled hair were decorated with beads and gold ornaments. "It's a man," one of them gasped. The women turned and ran as fast as their feet could carry them. Kwame was too weak to follow. His head troubled, and before he could think, he collapsed once more. The women, filled with fear and curiosity, rushed back to the island's village. They burst into a grand hut where their leader Kaira sat upon a throne. Kaira was the most beautiful of them all, her eyes sharp, her body strong yet graceful. "A man!" they cried. "We found a man on the shore." At first, Kiara did not believe them. No man has ever set his foot on Zuma Island. It was impossible. The news spread like wildfire, and all the women ran to the sea to see for themselves. But when the whole village gathered at the shore and saw him with their own eyes, whispers of excitement spread like wildfire. Kyra stepped forward and used a long stick to poke him. Then he growled in pain. She gasped. "He's alive," she muttered. "Take him to the chambers." Kwame lay on a soft bed made of woven palm leaves, his body covered in healing herbs. For days, he drifted in and out of sleep. Each time he woke, he saw different women caring for him, placing clothes on his forehead and feeding him sweet fruits. On the 5th day, he finally opened his eyes and sat up. "Where am I?" he muttered, clutching his head. A voice answered from behind him. "You are on Zuma Island." He turned and saw Kyra standing before him, her arms crossed. Kwame's mouth fell open. She was stunning, her dark skin shimmering in the candlelight, and her eyes held the wisdom of 100 lifetimes. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am Kyra, the leader of this island, and these are my sisters." Kwame looked behind her and nearly jumped in shock. Hundreds of women stood watching him, their eyes filled with curiosity and excitement. 300 women, and not a single man in sight. Kwame could not understand it. "How can there be only women here?" he asked. Kyra hesitated for a moment, then sighed. "I suppose you deserve to know our story. Long ago, a group of powerful priestesses angered a jealous god. As punishment, the god cursed their land, separating them from the rest of the world. The island of Zuma became a place where no man could enter and no woman could live. Over time, the priestesses found a way to continue their bloodline through ancient magic. Each generation of women was born without even knowing a father." Kwame was stunned. "So you have never seen a man before?" Kyra shook her head. "No, you are the first." The women stared at him in awe, whispering among themselves. Some reached out to touch him, giggling at the firmness of his muscles. Kwame had never felt so observed. At night, as he laid on his bed, he couldn't stop thinking about their story. If no man had ever set his foot on this island before, why had the gods sent him here? He asked. Days passed. Kwame grew stronger. The women treated him like a king, bringing him the best fruit and tending to his every needs. At night, they sat around the fire, asking him endless questions about the outside world. But peace did not last long. One fateful afternoon, a white leopard crept into the village. It has been drawn by the scent of food and now pounding against the heart, its golden eyes glowing with hunger. The women screamed in terror. "We will all die," some cried, running for safety. Kwame, hearing the commotion, sprang into action. He grabbed a spear from one of the huts and ran towards the beast. The leopard launched its sharp claws, slashing through the air. The fight was fierce. Kwame dodged and struck with all his might. The battle seemed endless, but at last, he drove his spear deep into the leopard's heart. The beast let out a final roar before collapsing and died. The village erupted with cheers. Kyra looked at him with something new in her eyes. Admiration, perhaps, or something more. And from that moment on, everything changed. Kwame had earned the admiration of the women of Zuma Island. His bravery in slaying the leopard proved his strength, and his presence among them sparked emotions they have never known before. Each night, as they sat around the fire, the women would ask him about the outside world. They listened with fascination, hanging on every word. One evening, as Kwame sat by the fire, one of the younger women reached out and touched his arms. He turned to see her blushing, a shy smile on her lips. "Your skin is so different," she muttered. "I've never touched a man before." Laughter rippled through the group, but their curiosity was undeniable. More women stepped forward, reaching out to touch his hair, his hands and his chest. Kwame chuckled at first, but soon realized the intensity in their eyes. He was the only man in their world, and something was changing between them. Kyra watched from a distance, her expression unreadable. She knew that this was only the beginning. As the days passed, Kwame noticed a shift in the way the woman treated him. They lingered closer, found excuses to touch him, and blushed when he met their gaze. It was clear they were drawn to him in ways they could not explain. One night, as he lay on his bamboo bed, he heard soft footsteps outside his hut. The door opened slightly, and a woman stepped in. It was Abeni, one of the most graceful of the women. She hesitated, looking nervous but determined. I want to be close to you," she whispered. Kwame's heart pounded. He knew this moment would come, but he did not expect it to happen so soon. He had been alone on the island for months, surrounded by beauty, and now temptation stood before him. He did not resist. That night, Abeni became the first, but she would not be the last. The next morning, Kwame woke to find Abeni gone. He stepped outside, expecting to meet the score, but instead, the women smiled at him knowingly. It was as if they had all agreed to what had happened. Over the following weeks, more women came to him, one by one. Each carried a quiet longing, a curiosity they have never been able to explore. Kwame found himself unable to deny them, and soon whispers spread through the village. Kyra, watching from the shadows, knew that this was no longer just admiration. The women were falling in love with Kwame, and with each night, the island's fate changed. She called a secret meeting with the girls. "If this continues," she said, "Zuma Island will never be the same." "Perhaps it is meant to change," one of the women replied. Kyra remained silent, but in her heart, she knew the gods had set this path long before Kwame arrived. The first sign of pregnancy appeared months later. One morning, Abeni clutched her stomach, a strange expression on her face. "Something feels different," she whispered. It was not long before the other women began experiencing the same. Kyra called for Kwame. "Do you understand what happened?" she asked him. Kwame nodded slowly. "They are with children." The realization set a wave of excitement and fear across the island. Never before had a child been conceived on Zuma Island. For generations, they had remained untouched, but now, new life grew within them. Some women rejoiced, touching their bellies with wonder. Others worried about what it meant for their future. And Kyra, despite her composed face, knew the gods had decided their fate. Kwame, now the father of the children of Zuma Island, could no longer ignore his role. His presence has changed everything. As months passed, the women's body began to change, their bellies growing round with life. The joy of pregnancy filled the village, but so did tension. Some of the women began to fight among themselves. Jealousy built in their hearts. Some felt special to have carried Kwame's child, whilst others envied those who had been with him. "Why does he spend more time with her than me?" one woman whispered. "I was the first," another argued. Kyra noticed the division growing, and it troubled her deeply. "We have lived in harmony for generations," she reminded them. "You cannot allow one man break our bond." Kwame sensed the unrest, calling for a gathering. "I am but one man," he said. "I did not come to cause division among you. If my presence brings you pain, I will leave." A cry of protest rose from the women. "No, you belong here now." Kyra watched, knowing that Zuma Island would never be the same again. As the first child of Zuma Island grew within their mothers, the skies darkened. The gods who had caused Kwame to his fate now watched with fury. Their punishment was meant to keep him away from his kingdom and not to create a new one. One night, a violent storm crashed against the island. The wind howled and the wave threatened to swallow the shore. A voice echoed through the sky. Kwame, you have defied our will. You were meant to suffer, not to thrive." Kyra stood behind him, her face resolute. "We will not let them take him from us," she declared. The women gathered, linking hands in defense against the gods' wrath. But the gods has only just begun their vengeance. The storm raged for days, the sea gods showing no mercy to Zuma Island. The wind tore through the village, knocking down the huts and uprooting trees. Waves crashed onto the shore, threatening to pull everything into the ocean. The women huddled together, their hands clasped in silent prayers. But Kwame stood firm, staring into the storm, his heart filled with rage. "I will not be a prisoner forever," he shouted into the sky. "You have cursed me, but you will not take them." Lightning struck the ground near his feet, and a deep voice roared through the heavens.
"Your punishment is not yet complete, Kwame of Kakum. The life you created was never meant to exist."
Kyra stepped forward, her eyes burning with defense. "The children are innocent. We will protect them," she declared. The storm raged hard, but women stood by Kwame's side. The gods will not win so easily. Days after the storm subsides, the first sign of labor came. Abeni, the first woman who had been with Kwame, cried out in pain. The other women rushed to her hut, their hands trembling. None of them have ever witnessed childbirth before. Their ancestors had used magic to bring life into the world. But now, nature had taken its course. Kyra knelt down beside Abeni, whispering words of encouragement. Kwame waited outside, his heart pounding. Would the gods strike now? Would they take the child before it could even breathe? Hours later, a baby's cry pierced the air. Abeni held the newborn baby in her arms, tears streaming down her eyes and face. The women gasped in wonder. The baby was strong, his dark eyes wide with curiosity. He was the first male born on Zuma Island. Kwame stepped inside and looked upon his son. Abeni smiled, exhausted but joyful. "His name will be Kofi," she said. A new era had begun. That night, as the women celebrated, the sky darkened once more. A figure appeared at the edge of the village, a towering being with skin as dark as the ocean's depths and eyes that glowed like fire. The gods of the sea had come in human form.
"This child should not exist."
The gods rumbled.
"You have broken the balance."
Kwame stepped forward, placing a hand on his sword. "If you wish to take him, You will have to fight me." The gods chuckled. They sound like crushing waves.
You cannot fight destiny, Kwame. The sea will call for you again. If you refuse, the entire island will pay the price.
Before anyone could speak, the gods vanished. As months passed, more children were born. The women of Zuma Island had never known motherhood, but now they held their children close, amazed at the new life surrounded them. Kwame, however, found himself troubled. He dreamed of Kakum every night, his mother, his people, and his kingdom. Were they still waiting for him, or had they moved on, believing him dead? One evening, Kyra found him staring at the horizon. "You miss home," she said softly. Kwame nodded. "I do, but I fear I will never return." Kyra touched his head. "The gods are not done with you yet." The island was no longer at peace. Some of the women saw the children as miracle, but others feared them. "The gods are angry," they whispered. "We have broken our sacred ways." Two groups began to form. Those who wished for Kwame to stay and those who believed he should leave before the god's wrath destroyed them all. One night, a group of women confronted Kyra. "You must send him away," they argued. The island was safe before he arrived. Kyra stood her ground. "Kwame is part of this island now. These children are his. We will not abandon them." But the division had already begun. Kwame knew the island could not survive if the women turned against each other. He made a decision. He had to leave. He called for Kyra and Ebony. "I must find a way back to Kakum," he said. "If I stay, the gods will never let the island be at peace." Kyra's eyes filled with pain, but she nodded. "If you must go, then we will help you." They devised a plan to build a raft strong enough to withstand the sea. But time was running out. The gods would not let him leave so easily. The night Kwame was set to leave, the sea churned violently. As he stepped onto the raft, the voice of the gods boomed across the island.
If you leave, you will never make it to Kakum.
Kwame looked at his children, at the women who had become his family. His heart ached, but he knew he had to go. "Then let it be so," he shouted. The moment the raft touched the water, a massive wave rose from the ocean, ready to crush him. But as it was about to strike, Kyra and the women raised their hands in union. "We will not let you take him," they cried. A brilliant light erupted from the island, pushing the wave back. The gods roared in fury, but they could not break the bond they had formed. With one last look at Zuma Island, Kwame set sail into the unknown. The sea tested Kwame at every turn. Storms tried to drag him under. Winds tried to throw him off guard. But he held firm. He had a mission to return to Kakum and reclaim his place. After what felt like an eternity, he saw land on the horizon. His heart limped. He was home. But what awaited him in Kakum? Kwame stepped onto the shores of Kakum, his heart pounding. The kingdom had changed. New banners flew, and strangers walked the streets. He approached the palace, unsure of what he would find. A voice called out, "Kwame, is this truly you?" He turned to see his mother, his eyes filled with tears. She ran to him, embracing him tightly. "We thought you were lost forever." Kwame looked beyond her, at the kingdom he once ruled. He had returned, But he was no longer the same man he had left as a warrior king. He returned as a father of a new world. The gods had sent him on a journey of suffering, but he created something greater than himself. And Zuma Island, with its children, would forever remain in his heart. The end.
Kwame sails on unknown sea, land of dreams and mystery. 300 women by his side, fates entwined, the stars collide. Storms arise, the gods declare, no man shall leave, no soul shall spare. Lost in waves, the heavens cry, echoes whisper, do not try. He will fight through the night, brave heart, shining light, with the chance of the sea, hopeful set them free. Shadows dance where secrets lie, ancient voices fill the sky. A lover's touch, a warrior's fate, bound by love yet cursed by hate. Storm-torn skies and mother's tears, drums of war, the sound of fears. Thunder roars, the ocean calls, destiny waits beyond these walls. He will fight through the night, brave heart, shining light, with the chance of the sea, hope will set them free. Drums beat steady, call the rain, hearts unchained, breaking pain. Dreams of home start to rise, underneath the starlit skies. Lost no more, but never home, a kingdom lost, a warrior soul. Wind will call, waves will guide, through the storm, love will guide. He will call.